We stay in Iraq, but we go back further, to 750 BC. In 1850, British archaeologist Austen Henry Layard was excavating the northwest palace of Nimrud, the throne room of the Assyrian kings, when he found a piece of ground rock crystal. It was oval, carefully polished on both sides, 38 millimeters wide, focal length of approximately 12 centimeters. It provides 3 times magnification. It is a functioning optical lens, from 750 to 710 BC. It now sits in the British Museum. Their official description states its optical properties were, and this is their actual language, probably accidental. Probably accidental. A piece of rock crystal, carefully ground, carefully polished, in the correct shape to produce 3 times magnification, found in the throne room of the kings whose astronomers produced star catalogues of sub-arc minute precision, called probably accidental. Here is what those Babylonian and Assyrian astronomers produced, without any documented telescope. Planetary motion records accurate to less than 1 minute of arc. Star catalogues of 71 celestial objects. Eclipse predictions. Calculations of Saturn's motion so precise that researcher Professor Giovanni Pettinato of the University of Rome argued they described Saturn's rings, which are not visible to the naked eye without magnification. We have a lens. We have astronomical records that require magnification. We have a civilization in Iraq that also produced the Baghdad Battery, 600 years later, in the same region, in the same tradition. The pattern is building. 3 artifacts, all from the same region of the world, all impossible by the official timeline, all pointing to the same thing. The ancient world was more advanced than we have been taught, not in some vague, general sense, in specific, measurable, testable ways. A computer that tracked the entire solar system in bronze gears. A battery that generates electricity verified in a laboratory. An optical lens found in the palace of astronomers who described Saturn's rings. All from the same connected ancient world, all built by people who drew on knowledge from multiple civilizations simultaneously. Babylonian, Greek, Egyptian, Indian, Persian, all lost, not gradually, completely. The Antikythera Mechanism's complexity wasn't matched for 1,400 years. The Baghdad Battery's principle wasn't formally rediscovered for 2,000 years. The Nimrud lens sat in the British Museum labeled probably accidental. In part 2, we go wider. Because these artifacts are not alone. There are structures on every continent that share the same pattern, and they share something else that nobody expected to find. A frequency. We found 3 artifacts from the ancient world that shouldn't exist by the official timeline. A 37-gear computer, a working electric battery, a functioning optical lens found alongside astronomers who described Saturn's rings. All from the same connected ancient world, all lost completely, all pointing to knowledge that was more advanced than history acknowledges. Today, we go to the buildings, because the same knowledge that was encoded in those artifacts was also encoded in stone, on every continent, in structures that have been standing for thousands of years, and that researchers have only recently realized are doing something that nobody expected. They are producing sound, specific sound, the same sound, everywhere. Before we get to the sound, let's finish the electricity thread from part 1. Because the Baghdad Battery doesn't stop at Iraq. It connects directly to Egypt. In the underground crypts of the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, built during the Ptolemaic period, roughly 300 to 30 BC, the same era as the Baghdad Battery. There are bas-relief carvings in a subterranean chamber that have divided researchers for decades. The carving shows an elongated oval, bulb-shaped object. Inside the oval, a serpent stretches from one end to the other in a wavy form. The oval connects via a cable-like feature to a box structure at the base. Standing next to it is a djed pillar, an ancient Egyptian symbol that Austrian electrical engineer Walter Garn analyzed in published research as structurally resembling an electrical insulator. Garn's analysis found that the proportions of the depicted object match those of a gas discharge lamp, approximately 1.5 meters in length at the depicted scale. The serpent inside represents what a plasma discharge looks like when electricity passes through a low-pressure tube. This is exactly what a Crookes tube looks like, the direct predecessor of the fluorescent light bulb, invented in 1875. The Dendera carvings predate the Crookes tube by over 2,000 years. But here's the physical fact that anchors this discussion. There is no soot in the Dendera crypts. In a chamber of intricate, detailed carvings and painted reliefs, executed with extraordinary precision in an underground space with no natural light. There are no smoke stains, no torch marks, no soot on the ceilings. In virtually every other Egyptian underground space where confirmed ancient lighting was used, soot residue exists. At Dendera, nothing. A 2026 architectural analysis proposed sophisticated mirror arrays as the explanation. That is a legitimate alternative. But those mirrors would need a source lamp, and that lamp would produce soot. The soot is absent. We are not saying electric light was used at Dendera. We are noting the carving looks like an electric device. The chamber has no soot. And the Ptolemaic kingdom that built this temple maintained active trade with the Parthian Empire, where the Baghdad Battery was produced. Through the same Silk Road network we identified in Part 1, same era, same trade network, same knowledge pathway, different artifact. Now, India. The same Silk Road runs east to India. The Agastya Samhita, an Indian text of disputed age, possibly medieval, possibly older, describes a battery formula using an earthen pot, copper plate, copper sulfate, and zinc amalgam. In 1990, that formula was built at a Nagpur research institute and tested. It produced 1.138 volts and 23 milliamps. Verified, documented, presented in front of scholars. The same tradition that produced this formula also produced the Iron Pillar of Delhi, a 6-ton iron pillar that has stood in the open air for 1,600 years with almost no rust. IIT Kanpur's published research confirmed the pillar contains a unique phosphorus-based protective layer, just 20 microns thick. We know what it is. We cannot reproduce it. The ancient world's knowledge of electricity and metallurgy was not limited to one civilization. It ran through a network, from Iraq to India to Egypt to Greece. And it was lost when that network collapsed.